I would say this is a very unusual video, or I could call it a mini tutorial. Just some things about vectors which you might find useful. Remember, the first thing is the vector could be the position of a point, or it could be the direction of a line. Probably the most common mistake I see is people getting confused, including me, between what a vector actually means in a particular question. And I would also say often you can't just know by kind of looking at the question, because questions will be laid out so differently. I try and really understand the situation to be sure what each vector means. I say almost always. Do you know what? I could probably cross that out and say I always draw a picture. With advanced vector questions, I always like to draw a picture. And I often find I can use triangle rules to help. It often gives me like a reasonableness check to make sure that it sounds about right. And my little other thought is, if it's in 3D, I often still draw it in 2D, and then it might later turn out that it wasn't a very accurate representation. But in 3D, well, I don't want to spend ages and ages making it really accurate, but at least it still helps me set up the equations sort of properly and stuff. Just because I know I'm guilty of this and other people are as well, remember the dot product. Sometimes it's easy to forget it, and it's so useful. And in particular, I often use it in combination with one or more triangle equations. For example, something like sine rule, and I often find that if I use dot product and a sine rule, that may save me a lot of time compared to another approach. Finally, cross product, which is kind of more advanced thing which crops up at some point when doing vectors at a higher level. This is just a little series of summary sheets reminding us basic things about it. It's a vector that's calculated from two other vectors, which is why the equation looks like this, because the answer has to be a vector. Remember, you can use your right hand and stick two fingers and a thumb out, and then that reminds you about the direction of the new vector. This is quite a useful equation. I don't know, do you know what? I'm torn. I think I probably don't use this very much compared to a lot of other techniques in vectors, but sometimes I find it useful. And I'll just leave you to look at this last page. Whole bunch of useful things to do with cross product. Thanks for watching. Hopefully that was helpful.